Genesis chapter 23. This is a fairly short chapter, and it's already 10 minutes after 8, so we won't have. There can be a good amount of discussion generated from this section. You might not think so, but I'll bring a couple of things to your attention that maybe would be interesting. But let's begin with Genesis 23 from the beginning. It says, Sarah lived to be 127 years old. These were the years of Sarah's life. Sarah died in Kiryat Arba, also known as Hebron, in the land of Canaan, and Abraham came to mourn Sarah and to weep for her. Then he got up from his dead one and said to the sons of Het, I am a foreigner living as an alien with you. Let me have a burial site with you so that I can bury my dead wife. The sons of Het answered Abraham, Listen to us, my lord. You are a prince of God among us. So choose any of your tombs to bury your dead. Not one of us would refuse you his tomb for burying your dead. Abraham got up, bowed before the people of the land, the sons of Het, and spoke with them. If it is your desire to help me bury my dead, then listen to me. Ask Ephron, the son of Zohar, to give me the cave of Makpelah, which he owns, the one at the end of his field. He should sell it to me in your presence, at its full value. Then I will have a burial site of my own. Ephron the Hittite was sitting among the sons of Het, and he gave Abraham his answer in the presence of the sons of Het, who belonged to the ruling council of the city. No, my lord, listen to me. I am giving you the field. With its cave, I am giving it to you. In the presence of my people, I give it to you. Abraham bowed before the people of the land and spoke to Ephron in their hearing. Please be good enough to listen to me. I will pay the price of the field. Accept it from me, and I will bury my dead there. But Ephron answered Abraham, My lord, listen to me. A plot of land worth 400 silver shekels. What is that between me and you? Just bury your dead. Abraham got the point of what Ephron had said, so he weighed out for Ephron the amount of money he had specified in the presence of the sons of Het, 400 silver shekels of the weight accepted among the merchants. Thus, the field of Ephron in Makpelah, which is by Mamre, the field, its cave, and all the trees in and around it, were deeded to Abraham as his possession in the presence of the sons of Het, who belonged to the ruling council of the city. Then Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Makpelah by Mamre, also known as Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The field and its cave had been purchased by Abraham from the sons of Het as a burial site which would belong to him. So here you have a brief mention of Sarah dying, and then a rather lengthy negotiation, it would seem, or people just waxing verbose about, oh no, my lord, oh no, my lord. So it's, it's like everybody's professing, and it's kind of interesting. And I was a little stumped about what is the instruction, and I don't. It is my intention always to try to find what is the hidden nuggets and what is the secret wisdom and what is the, some cool little stuff that we can find. That's always fascinating, and I love doing that. But what is the instruction for us? What does it matter? I know that every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Father is instructive and helpful in some way. It's not always readily apparent, but we have to dig and we have to kind of mine this section as well as we can to kind of figure out what is the instruction for us. And so I came up with a couple of observations and questions that I hope will get us somewhere with this and what it means for us. And did you have a question? Did someone have a question about this section?
I can wait for...
Oh, no. Carla, did you have anything? Okay, I thought there might have been a question about this. It's interesting to note when you read in the Hebrew, it says a couple of things that are interesting in regards to the life of Sarah. First of all, it says in the Hebrew, the lives of Sarah. It's plural. which is kind of interesting on its face. Now, the rabbis have made a big deal about the fact that it says these are the years of Sarah's life. She lived, most of your translations will say she lived to be 127. But in the text it actually says she was 127 years. She lived 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. So it's kind of curious. It's not exactly certain why it is, put out that way, because a lot of times when someone dies and it says they were 175 or 137 or something like it just says 137. They just kind of string those words together to make it the number that they want. But in the case of Sarah, it says she lived 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. These are the lives of Sarah, which is really kind of curious. But it's not a totally rare occurrence. It does happen in other places of the scripture. For example, and which is kind of strange, but maybe connected in a way, I'm not really sure, is that this same type of numbering designation is used for the death of Ishmael, but is not used for Abraham, and it is not used for Isaac, and it is not used for Jacob. So that was kind of interesting to me, that it was Sarah, whose years of her life are delineated in this way, and her adopted son, Ishmael. Not sure exactly what to make of that. It is a curious observation, though. One of the things that the rabbis talk about, which they kind of supposed, and it's really fanciful, and they kind of explain it as, Sarah had the wisdom of a 100-year-old woman, and the natural beauty of a 20-year-old woman, and the childlike innocence of a 7-year-old girl, all wrapped up in her for her whole life. Now, I think that there's a certain amount of sunshine blowing up the skirt that happens with the Hebrews and their patriarchs. And I understand that, they don't want to cast aspersion on them and make them sound fabulous, which is great, and we'd certainly want to honor them. But, Sarah's a normal woman, and her faith is not spoken of in as glowing terms as Abraham's is. And we have noted on a couple of occasions where she seems to have tripped on that skirt in regarding to her faith, But I thought it was kind of curious, and there may be something there, but I'm not sure what it is. It's certainly curious. Does anyone have any insight or questions or comments about that may be something that you've read or heard that might be interesting in regards to that? Okay. What I thought of when I read this is, because so much more emphasis is placed on the life of Sarah and is broken out into these segments for whatever reason, and that the plural is used, there's so much more emphasis placed on life, her life, than there is on her death. Do you notice that? That it's almost like it doesn't just say, oh yeah, and Sarah's, Abraham's wife Sarah died. She lived to be 127. There's a bit of emphasis placed on the fact that she lived. The word lived is used twice, and one of them is plural. Possibly both of them. I didn't look terribly carefully.
I think they're the same.
What's that?
I think they're the same.
Okay. So there seems to be more emphasis placed on her being alive and her actually living for 127 years, instead of placing the emphasis on the fact that she died. And I don't want to play semantics with this, but it seemed to me to be an emphasis on truly living. And I think that there is a lot to be said about that, focusing on being alive and what you can do while you are alive. Because when you're dead, your time is done, and you can't do the things that you could have done to better yourself, to better the people around you. It's about, being generative, if you want to use that word, that means to pass on to others. Pay it forward might be another way of looking at it in today's modern parlance. But being generative is probably the more correct, accurate term to pay it forward and be able to really live and make contributions to the people around you, rather than the emphasis being placed on death. It seems to be more placed on life. Mike? Were you going to say something?
Not right here. Well, other than did have a question as to whether or not we talked about in the last chapter how they kind of predicted Isaac's age. And because this is happening right after, is this why? Because they say he's 37 based on...
Yeah. They do, they do actually comment that it is the idea that is commonly held among some people that the fact that Abraham took her son Isaac, because of the way it's worded in the previous chapter, that he received this request from God to take Isaac up to this Mount Moriah and do that, and he woke up early in the morning and got on his way, that somehow they have inferred that he did not tell Sarah what was going to happen, that he left her in the dark and basically took the kid and some servants and took off. Then she had to interrogate some of his people to find out, where did my husband and my son go? And someone reluctantly told her he heard from God, and God told him to bring the boy up to the mountain as an offering, and that it struck her heart and she died.
It makes it more interesting if these things are happening in parallel, because you know he's not a boy.
Right.
Right?
Right.
He could have, like we had talked about last week, you know, it was his faith that allowed him to stay there and let these things happen rather than him being overpowered or just being naive to what was taking place.
Yep. So I don't know, whether that's true or not. It certainly could be.
I had read, I don't know if it was in the Scroll of Yashar or necessarily where, that she did find out what you just said, but she didn't die until word came back that Isaac had actually lived, and then she died.
Yeah.
But there were some other things in there, like a Hasatan coming and saying things to her.
Yeah, I haven't, I didn't look at that passage in the book of Jasher specifically in regard to this. I know that this is duplicated in the book of Jasher, but I didn't look at it, so I'd have to look at that. It's kind of...
that one, but
Could be.
somewhere.
I'd have to look at that.
I would think that at her age, it wouldn't be unusual, beyond conceiving the possibility that she was not in good health at that point.
Sure.
That would be a good reason why he wouldn't tell her, because he's going by worry her.
True.
You know?
True. That's
and
true.
Then afterwards, she felt
Right. Yeah.
relief and just gave us all over to die.
Yeah.
But I wonder at, you said that they're talking about her having more than one life?
Not entirely, no.
All I've got here is Strong's numbers.
Right.
And it all indicates just nothing major, just
Right.
communication.
Right.
She
Yeah,
lived
it's
127 years.
yeah, so when you look at it's why it's a good idea to have, at least on your phone, the Hebrew chapters that are what's the word I'm looking for? An interlinear, yes. Sorry. So it literally says in the Hebrew, Vayihu Chaye Sarah. It was becoming old Sarah. Me'ah, 100. Shana, years. Vesarim, and 20. Shana, the years. Vesheva, 7 years. Shenai, years of the life of Sarah. So it literally is broken it out into those 3 segments. Now, why, I don't know. It's not suggesting, I don't think that the rabbis are suggesting like multiple lives or something, but just that it's curious the way her life is spoken of as being broke out into 100 years and 20 years and 7 years. You add that up and it means she lived for 137 years. But that why is it broken out into these 3 segments of 100 plus 20 plus, or 100 plus 20 plus 7?
Because in mine it says 107 and 20.
Okay.
So they switched the 7 and the 20. So
Yeah.
But then the King James does not say life twice either. See, where you're saying, we're saying live to be, and this, it just
Right.
says Sarah was 107 and 20 years old. These were the years of the life of Sarah.
Right.
Doesn't show that high, the
Yeah, Chayeh is in there twice. Right. Yeah, it's really instructive to read a Hebrew interlinear translation. It's where you see a lot of interesting things. And like we've talked about before with the Strong's Concordance, it's going to give you the root word, but it's not going to give you any little sticky letters like Angie talks about when she's teaching the Hebrew letters. It's not going to give those to you. So you would actually have to look at the actual Hebrew and say, okay, wait a minute. The first word of this thing is Hayah, but it doesn't say Hayah in the Hebrew. It says Vayiyu. How is that? Why is it so different? It's because of the sticky letters that are adding on different subtle meanings to that Hebrew word. That's why the concordance is incredibly useful, but is limited and restricted. So when you're learning this Hebrew stuff, it'll start to make a little bit more sense, and you say, okay, I am starting to understand that doesn't read exactly like what I look at in my Strong's Concordance, because that's just giving you the basic root word. It's not giving you the sticky letters that are on the front and the back of this word to make it say what it's supposed to say, like he went instead of just the word went, or it came to be that she could all be crammed together instead of it just came to be, Hayah. So you're getting more information by reading the actual Hebrew word than just the Strong's Concordance. Did you want to say something, Carla?
When you first brought that up, it made me think, I mean, there isn't enough maybe for me to go on, but I think of like my life in segments, you know?
Sure.
There's certain points in my life where something changed.
Mm-hmm.
And it was profound. It changed in my walk, and especially, you know, having a relationship with the Lord, and then later the walk with the Hebraic insights and all that. But then there's also natural things that were segmented,
Sure.
you know, being single and then getting married. And I was trying to think what would have been going on in her life, because she had Yitzhak at 90.
Right.
So if he'd be 10 years old. And I didn't know if there was some...
We don't know of anything
Right.
that happened when she was 100 years old. The text doesn't tell us anything. So I don't know. I like what you're saying about, you know, our lives sometimes being broken up into segments where it's like, oh yeah, when I was 20, you know, that period really was characterized by this, but then really I had a profound life change and began to, you know, morph into something else, you know, from the 20 to 30. So I see what you're saying, except in this case, we don't have anything in the text which leads us to believe why these numbers are broken out the way they are.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose you could have broken up the math any way you want.
Wouldn't that indicate that it really isn't that big of a deal one way or the other?
It certainly could.
Because I mean,
It's certainly, I am willing to accept that.
all these different things that we don't have all the.
Yeah, true enough. True enough. Angela?
I'm just looking at this, trying to puzzle it out, and I could be totally wrong. I don't know much about Hebrew, but the way that first word is conjugated, you were talking about the sticky letters on the front, so there's and there's But the way the be verb is conjugated, it's conjugated as a they. So it's not it was her life, it was they. These are. It's more than one. So even the conjugation of the being verb, there's more than one life being talked about here.
Yeah, that is very interesting. What does it mean? I don't know. Gracie could be right. It could mean nothing. But I tend to think that it probably does mean something, and we just don't know what it is.
It could have something to do with the spiritual seed, and that the seeds are many. You know, like the Messiah is the seed, but through him there are many lives. And we're told to look to our mother Sarah, who bore us. And,
That is certainly
you know,
possible.
There could be something there with that. With the
Yeah.
days.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, it was ended with the 7 years for completion.
Mm-hmm.
So something.
That's true. That's true.
And I was just asking Angie if she thought there was any significance to where she died. That city is called City of Four, or City of Fourth.
Mine says City of Four Giants.
There were giants isn't in there. It's something Kiryat, which is city.
And
then
Arba
is
means four. That is in some translations commentary. I know that the Delitzsch Hebrew commentary does indicate something about 4 giants.
It's because of the location, I think, because it's the land of Amalek, they were giants. I think that's why, but it's not actually in the text.
Yeah.
There is something about, I've seen something deeper about the father and his 3 sons, and they were giants, and they ruled that land, and they called it the city of 4. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, the Hebrew translation, the Hebrew commentary, as well as the Franz, the Franz, I think it's Franz Delitzsch, or maybe his father, I apologize for not knowing his first name. Commentary says the same thing, something about the city of 4 giants. It just, literally in Hebrew, it does just mean 4. For what? Yeah, it's open to speculation. But, yeah. So why do you think that Abraham seeks to make purchase of this property in this land? Does that bother you in any sense? Is he acting in faith because he knows that God is giving this land to him and to his seed forever, that he decides, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy some of it? Or does this strike you as him jumping the gun or moving out in faith? Gracie?
I think he didn't want to be beholden to them, didn't want them to have anything to hold over and say, well, we gave you this, you know.
He has demonstrated that before. Yeah, that's very true.
Was it him that was with Melchizedek?
Yes.
Yeah.
When the king of Sodom was like, give me the people and you can have all the stuff, he's like, I'm not taking nothing, So yeah, you are correct that he has in the past been really reluctant to take stuff from people, to say, yeah, I'm not going to give you any credit for anything that's happening here. So that could certainly be part of it. Does it strike you that he is stepping out in faith in making purchase of this property that is going to be given to his seed forever? Or does it seem like he might be jumping the gun, getting a little antsy? I'm going to go ahead and buy a piece of this property? Tracy?
Well, that kind of just makes me think about what I was asking about the city of the 4th, because Messiah is represented by the number 4, which is authority, being the 4,000th year, the center of the menorah is the 4. So that could be, he's like, this is the city of the 4th son, or the 4th, whatever you want to refer to it as. But
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering, if there's some kind of connection to Messiah there.
Yeah. I don't necessarily have any problem with him purchasing property. To me, it seems like maybe stepping out in faith rather than jumping the gun. I think that, when we take God at his word, he doesn't often, and you'll notice that in some of these other scriptures that we're coming to, where specifically the promises are reiterated to his son Isaac after Abraham dies and God begins to speak with Isaac, he reiterates these promises that he made to Abraham, but he speaks about them in the past tense. Like, not I will give this land to your descendants and your lands will be as, your descendants will be as the sands of the sea, but I have done it. Not I will do it, I have done it. And that's another thing that we continuously read about in the New Testament when Paul is talking to us, for example, in Ephesians, where he's talking about the great and wonderful gifts and the great power that has been given to believers in Messiah. It does not say it will happen, it says it has happened. And we are so slow to pick that up and understand what is being spoken and what are the riches in the Messiah that we have now, that we really shouldn't be waiting, sitting around and twiddling our thumbs and saying, yeah, life kind of sucks and this is, we're just going to have to grin and bear it until, Jesus comes and saves us. Have you been left with that impression when you're reading your Bible in the New Testament, for example? There are a few times where Paul's, encouraging to patience and such, and Peter and James, but for a lot of the time, they're spending their time telling us, don't think that way. Think about and understand what are the riches in the Messiah that you already have, and begin to act out on those things, and not holding on and just kind of hanging in there, but moving forward. Gracie? Hold on, what's that?
What?
I just said the kingdom of heaven's at hand, right?
Yeah.
There you go. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Not it's coming, but it is here. So,
I don't know why I believe this. I don't know where I learned it or whatever. But I always thought that all through the scripture, God said it. He made a promise. He made a covenant way back then. It was as good as done
right.
then. It's not going to become any more sure done as we live it and acknowledge it and live as if we really do believe it, than when it was just as good as done then. We accept Christ as our Messiah. We do what we're supposed to do with the Lord, with the Torah and stuff. And we have His Spirit immediately. He's the earnest of the inheritance.
Right.
He is the down payment. I find a house I like, I put a down payment on it, it is accepted, it's as good as mine. We're just filling in all the blanks.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the way my life, when I'm walking, when I remember to scoot the old enemy off my shoulder, you can live in it no matter what this is that we're seeing with our human eyes.
Yeah.
It gets exciting when you really get into the Word and really start looking at it.
Yeah.
We're not necessarily living all those things now, but they are there.
Yeah.
They are.
They really are
The
there.
book and we win.
That's true. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Carla?
Just to tag on to that, in understanding the word that God will give him this land, well, how many of us think it's just like without anything he ever has to do, it's going to just be handed over. It's like this gift. And it is, I'm not trying to negate that.
No, you're right.
But the action to get that, there's many ways to get there in possibilities.
Sure.
If you don't know. Well, this is perhaps the Lord working on this guy to even say, hey, I'll give it to you. And Abraham's, of course, like I'm sure we'll talk about why he paid him, but it's like he still got the land. The covenant happened. The promise happened.
Yeah.
You could have gotten him anyways.
Sure.
Well, you got it.
Yeah. I think that's why I said I don't have any problem with saying this is Abraham appropriating his faith and acting on the strong belief that God is true to his word, and I'm going to go ahead and act as if it's true. Now that might lead you to say, well, if he believed that this was true, why wouldn't you just kill everyone there and take their land? Well, that would not be the right way to go about it necessarily. Angela?
Ever since ever since Cain and Abel made their sacrifice, there's idea. I think Abraham understood that payment is required because see, when Cain and Abel offered their sacrifices, one offered fruits and vegetables, and one killed an animal, like.
Bless you.
I'm not saying this well, but like when Adam and Eve sinned and they tried to cover themselves with fruits and vegetables, and God said, no, that is not a proper covering. A proper covering takes payment, and the payment is a nefesh, a soul being sacrificed.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe Abraham understood the spirit of that a proper, the way things are done properly with God is it requires payment.
Yeah. Atonement, an atoning payment. Yeah. Good insight.
Is
Gracie?
there any significance to the amount of 400 shekels of silver?
That's a good question. I could not find anything in regards to the specific number. Does anybody have any ideas about what some spiritual significance to those numbers might be? I didn't see anything. Yeah.
Multiple.
It's mem times 4, times 10. I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, that's a challenging one. So let me ask you this. Why do we have this rather lengthy and convoluted bargaining session going on here? Do you have ideas about why that was taking place? I mean, why are they saying, oh, go take it and, it's yours, and oh, no, what is this? Do you have ideas about what that is? Why are they behaving in this way?
Well, they look like they're really being so beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tav, what?
400 is the letter Tav.
Wow.
400 is the letter Tav, the cross.
When he's buying land,
Ultimate payment made on a top.
which
Hey,
it
that's
flips
interesting.
Because he's buying land in the promised land, and that's what we are, Israel's land that he purchased with his life. So there could be a connection to that.
There you go. That's an interesting insight. I didn't realize, it didn't hit me that
Why we're
Tav
compared to ground, soil,
Yeah.
near the land that he's purchased.
for 400 shekels. That's cool.
Well, he purchased, I think, well, I'm not going to go there.
So I think it's interesting. I think that you saying, with them making grand gestures, I think that that's absolutely part of it. I think that one thing that I mentioned to you, I think last time about some of those books and online stuff that's free to give you interesting insight into the culture and the society of first century Palestine. Excuse me, I never want to say that again. The land of Israel, Eretz Israel. One of the things that I learned from reading about that this week is that, yes, these are grand gestures that are part of a bargaining process among friends. Now, you've seen it go the other way when it's like you're haggling in the Middle East, from a purchasing perspective of I don't know you and you don't know me. We start off high and you go, oh gosh, I would never pay that much, and you meet somewhere in the middle, and it's a huge convoluted haggling session. But apparently, among those who are trying to honor each other, if you were a very wealthy man who was recognized walking through a marketplace and you stop at a poor man's stall and you say, I want to buy that, he's, oh no, my lord, I give it to you, and he's like, no, that, because if you accept it is his cultural duty to say, I give it to you because I recognize that you are a man of great importance. I will give it to you. But if the rich man were to accept that, say, oh really, awesome, hand it over, you've shamed that man by saying, I don't recognize your value and I will take it for free. So if these guys had said, oh no, my lord, we'll give you the land for free, and Abraham had said, okay, then he's basically shaming them by not reciprocating and saying, no, I insist on paying. There also seems to be some concern regarding, and this is a more interesting thing to me, is that yes, there's some magnanimity going on here, but there's also some complicated legal issues, because it was essentially really a difficult proposition to buy land from the Hittites as a foreigner. It's just like, it made me think, okay, I totally understand this. In real estate, I sold real estate for a number of years. And, we have the same laws in America. If a person from another country wants to buy real estate in America, they have what's called a FIRPTA tax, the Foreign Investment Repatriation and Transfer Act, which basically says that anyone who is not an American citizen has to pay a rather hefty tax on the next time that they sell that property. That is because you want to keep the land owned by the families and the people of that land. So it is a rather difficult process to purchase land in a country that is not yours. And so Abraham, knowing that, says he understands that he needs to get Ephron the Hittite to say whatever the number is. Now, you know how we've talked about, hey, what is, it's 400 shekels. By all accounts, if you look at any commentary, 400 shekels was an incredibly inflated price. It was not worth anywhere near that. And I think that Ephron the Hittite was probably anticipating, once they got the formalities of recognizing each other's greatness out of the way, I'm going to start high and say, dude, it's only worth 400 shekels. And Abraham would have said, really, 400? How about 100? And they may have settled on 2 or 3 or something. But this was an inflated value. And that Abraham immediately said, no problem. You said 400 shekels? You got it. And it happened in the middle of all of the elders of the people. Everyone was there to witness, testify, and say, yeah, not only did Abraham pay that, he paid it. Not only did Abraham pay and agree amongst all of us, we all were witnesses of it, but he paid a tremendous value. He paid a lot over market value. And so that it was done this way, I believe, by Abraham understanding the people amongst whom he was living, to say, at any time this sale could be challenged in court, to say, who is this Abraham guy, a foreigner living among us? He's not, where are his people? Where is his? He's not living here anymore, and they would take it away from him. So that he went through this slightly convoluted process in order to assure himself a strong and perpetual legally binding contract. Angela?
Isn't that area under dispute right now?
That's another interesting thing, is that, and I actually have some pictures here. This is alternately a church during the Crusade period, or a mosque during the period of the Ottomans, whatever. This building was built on top of these caves that are somewhere down underneath where Abraham and his wife Sarah are buried, Isaac and Rebekah and Jacob and Leah are all buried there. All 6 of those people. Rachel, remember, died on the way to Bethlehem on the road after they left Uncle Laban's house. She didn't get that far. And Joseph was brought to the same area, but he has a separate sepulcher where he is buried in the same area. But there is a double cave, apparently. That's what Makpelah means, is a double opening of some kind. That there are caves buried under the ground here where the actual, supposedly, remains of those 6 patriarchs and matriarchs are actually entombed or enshrined. And on the ground, they've turned it into some kind of little museum. And behind this big gate thing, this is the Hebrew side. You notice it's written in Hebrew. There's another one of these gates that is similarly arranged on the other side, which has Arabic written on it. And we keep those two separated so that they can go in. And this is an area that a lot of tourists don't visit because it's dangerous. The Palestinians, this is in the West Bank, and it is heavily Palestinian. There are some Jews living in the area, but it's a dangerous place to be. They will, they get out of control. Just curiously, can anyone read that?
I have my glasses on.
Just wondered.
Can you?
It says Abraham something. What's the other thing? It says Abraham.
Avraham Avinu,
Okay.
What does that mean?
our father Abraham.
Yeah, I was trying to read the top thing. So
The top is
just like
Ayin Yod Vav and a final noon, I think.
Tzaddik, Yod, Vav.
I can't read it terribly clearly. I'm not sure exactly what the top part says. I
It's
can't
probably
really make it
not
out.
like, it's probably like, this is where our father Abraham is, or something.
Yeah, I think that this is the tomb, or this is the place, or something like that. But anyway, yeah, that's what it looks like from inside. And you can actually look at a couple of videos on YouTube. People have gone in with cameras and will show you, what it looks like and everything. It's kind of neat. Yeah.
When Pastor Daniel was there this fall, the 2 sides, the Arab side and the Jewish Christian side, they can see each other. And
Yeah.
when they would look through, the Arabs would take stones and throw them through this, trying to hit the other side. So they ended up having to put plexiglass up to stop it. And all those rocks are just strewn around at the bottom.
Isn't that weird?
And they would do that to
Yeah.
Abraham too.
The hatred and the hatred and the animosity is unbelievable. It's spiritual sickness.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly convinced that the kind of hatred that is evinced there is a spiritual, demonic type of thing. It's not something that you can understand, I don't think. It's curious that you can see this weird domed structure inside. That's actually a tent. It looks like an archway of some kind. If you can see, I don't think that I have any other pictures. No, I don't. But if you look and see some of the videos and other pictures, you can see that there's a room behind these grates, and there's some kind of a domed tent, which is like a monument or some type of thing. But it's interesting that it's like a sukkah, kind of. And then the other set of bars for the Arabs to view is on the other side of the tent. That arched thing is not an archway of the wall behind. That is actually a domed tent that is behind this grating.
Well, it looks like it could be a door there.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was at first, was some kind of an arched doorway or something. But if you look, this is actually a cloth tent. You can see these little markings right here. Those are things that are embroidered in the cloth of this domed structure that is just on the other side of these iron bars.
What's the meaning of it?
It is it's like a mausoleum. It's a temporary shelter that's built over, supposedly, down below where Abraham, and there's another room just next to this one which says our mother Sarah, and then on the other side of the building there's one that says our father Isaac and Rivka, So it's very interesting, but curious. I would encourage you to check out a YouTube video.
Kuf Bet Rash's tomb or grave.
Okay. Kuf Bet Resh. Chavar? I don't know what that word is, but yeah. Cool. So yeah, there's something significant about the fact that this property is currently in the hand of Israel's enemies, but it is absolutely a possession of Abraham's. Like you said about the down payment, I think Abraham made a down payment on this property right there in Hebron. And that the Jews will have control of this someday. You never know, you might be living there. It's a really pretty country as far as I have understood.
It's interesting the same kind of conversation happens for the temple, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
You-
What did you say, Gracie?
I wondered if you've been over there.
I have not. I wish.
You've been getting trouble.
I might have to wait for Jesus.
Just wait till I have a glorified body and then
Yeah.
I'll just...
Angela?
I always wanted to teleport. That's the secret part. I always wanted.
That, yes, absolutely. Teleportation with an impervious bubble
Yay.
and a camera. Angela?
It's grave, Kevar.
Kavar is grave. Cool. Excellent. Excellent. I have one final thing, and then I'll stop. I apologize. You know how we sometimes see allegories and pictures and metaphors in the Word, and we see kind of chiasms and kind of neat structures in the way that these stories are presented or something. Here is something that is presented in a way, and I hadn't realized this, and it's kind of unusual, but some of the church fathers and some supersessionists, replacement theologians, see a bit of a word picture in this chapter and the one before it and the one after it. What they see is the binding of Isaac shows the father offering his son. Sarah, the mother, dies in this chapter. And then in the next chapter, Abraham's servant Eliezer is going out to find a bride for the son. Now, in your imagination, I can see the picture of the gospel in some of this, where the father is, making sacrifice of his only begotten son. And then shortly afterwards, the Holy Spirit goes out to seek for a bride for this son. But what is Sarah dying in the middle of this? How does that play into it? Now, what some have suggested is Sarah dying in the middle of these two episodes is indicative of God setting aside his people, that the people of Israel are dead and done, and God has switched his program completely to a new group of people. The Gentiles have taken over, and that the Jews and the people of God have been set aside, and that's what this is portraying. Now, that is unusual for theologians, especially Christian ones, to bring out those types of things in the text, but that is something that I found, and I find it disgusting. But I know, and you know, that supersessionism and replacement theology, and God has switched religions, and God has switched peoples, that is absolute nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. There is no Gentile church. There's a bunch of Gentiles who joined the assembly of called out people and just joined themselves to Israel. I guess they didn't read that part in Romans where it says that we're grafted in. I don't know how they missed that. Anyway, that bothered.
The bride must be crucified too. With the I have been crucified with Messiah, no longer I who live, but he in me. Maybe there's a picture of the bride laying down her life as he did.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I can see totally the picture of the gospel in those two chapters. As far as Sarah dying in the middle, I don't know. It's kind of interesting, but some weird theologians have interpreted it that way, and I think that's just wrong. But I think that's enough for me for this evening. It's about time to fellowship together and eat some food together. But next time, I would highly encourage you to read chapter 24. It's such an amazing chapter. It's a rather lengthy chapter, but it is so good. And I want you to think about and pray about and see if you can find out what are the parallels between the Holy Spirit and Eliezer, because there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And I think that's going to be the bulk of what's happening in that section. It's very, very interesting. Anyway, let's pray together and we'll get going.